Hello everyone. Today's talk is titled The Future's Entrance. And what I would like to talk about today, in a sense more deeply, is the future is something that we will be. In the sense that all our contributions are being contributed towards the success of not an individual human being, but of humankind. Now, when you look at how to take care of humankind, you see that it's, even though we think that wealth is the solution, but the answer is not in the realm of an individual sense of satisfaction. You must become aware where all living beings are. And then you will become aware that you are too. As you become aware that you are two, you will see the two is observed within one. What is real is not just what we think, is the opposite of what is unreal. So in other words, some things we see but we don't relate directly to. A person might, in front of an audience, communicate that their truth is something, but in actuality seeing more of the picture than it's being communicated. We have people who are good people but are bad in certain moments, for they do not honestly act. When I mean you do not honestly act, that means the way you are identifying with life is not aligned with how you're identifying to self. In front of ourselves, we're all honest men. That person who killed someone was honestly killing someone. Do you see that? So it is his confusion of the world he's living in which he is not existentially sensitive to the life form that he's, in a sense, engaging. And people who are insensitive to life, it means that it's not that life will not hear it. You know, if you do something very wrong, and in the sense that you feel it's not aligned, as if your whole system is telling you, don't sit on the bar of the chair, sit on the actual chair, and you constantly sit on the bar, you will see that the chair will fall. You will see that your reality that assumed that it had power would fall in an instant because you weren't being honest. You have one lifetime to be honest, and sometimes you might not be honest to others, but always be honest to yourself. What that means is when it comes to deciding something for yourself, you are completely clear. When an emergency comes in which you need to act, no one is stupid in an emergency. Do you know? What that means is an aspect of the being goes more into an attention to what is real. And so there are people who do not see the gentleness of life, and in a sense become imbalanced. As they become imbalanced, they are imbalancing others. As others become imbalanced, the methodologies of balance are not well communicated. So what I mean by that pretty much is that there's a lot of turbulence because everyone's passing on their own turbulence based on how they were made turbulent. It's very important that when turbulence comes, you become the stillness in the movement that doesn't work. When you're doing the same thing and it doesn't more, sometimes the newest approach is stopping that action. There have been many methods that I've realized the smartest method is to become aware of all the methods. Simply it. And a mind that is thinking holistically is much healthier than a mind that is creating individual ideas of itself that it thinks it is. Let's say, similar to how you might draw a line on a page, let's say you just drew a line of thought right now. You will see if you constantly draw lines of thought, you constantly are just drawing, and if you choose not to acknowledge your creation in the present moment as your creation, you will be putting yourself in a dynamic where you're not taking responsibility for your action, and so you are not no longer the originator of your world. Humanity must try to understand the dynamics of consciousness and in regards to how self and other is. Every child in our educational system must be given a very gentle and calm moment throughout their day in school to just cultivate an understanding of everything that is happening. School is here to not just educate, but to enhance, to make the ability of the being more. So if school is not doing that by using a method that is not adjusting to the consciousness of today, then our intolerance to see the future has made our collapse a future. What I mean by that is that if you're not maintaining your company as a CEO, you will have to face bankruptcy. If something is not giving life, if you do not put an effort and intention in trying to create, in a sense, very consciously, a very able self, you will not be able to do this if you do not focus on what life really means. Not a lot of people know life really means because it is not something they can be told. Some questions you will ask your parents and you're like, oh gosh, it's as if they are so wise, and their presence is beyond words, but at the same time, it's as if I am not supposed to be in the house asking this question. You sometimes realize that the clues that life is giving you on where you need to go is actually made receptible to you by your awareness of the conditioning in which you are in now. So what I mean by that is, the minute I become aware of the room I'm in, I have a better way of finding an entrance or an exit. And we see realities must be treated like rooms. Because if you do not consider the realities in your room, you will see that it would be one where it be a game of accusation. So whoever has the clearest accusation or whoever has the clearest, most firmest, loudest voice wins. In other words, it's the king of, it's the lion dynamic. But the lion dynamic must not apply to that which observes the lion. What that means is man is not an animal, but natural imagery is healthy, of course. Natural imagery is showing you that similar to how we are building buildings over forests, we should at the same time plant seeds and create trees of natural imagery. What that means is if I destroy a forest to make a building, you better really cultivate an environment that is still connected to the natural world. So what I mean by that is there's one way of, let's say, building structures on this earth that destroys that environment and makes it into like a solid pavement where new roads can be made, or it can be one where what we create on the surface of the earth is just amplifying what the earth is expressing. And I don't know if our material technology has gone there, but I think crystals will be a huge contribution to that. Anyways, Uh, Awareness is aware of it all. You are an individualized sense of awareness. How you acknowledge your individuality on an external level when people look at you manifests as your style and your intentions and your presence, what you're doing here. But your experience has dimensions where it's as if the only thing that is present is a mirror. So there are some ways of looking at the subtlety of how reality is created where you will see, oh my God, I cannot see further because I'm only seeing my ideas of it. I'm only having this view in a world of infinite views. So when I see the wind move the leaves, it's as if I see the intelligence of the cosmos speaking to me and telling me that being, human being, the leaf that is moving in front of you is done through an absence. That's the beauty of this reality, that actions are done through a sense of transcendental expression. So what that means is that everything that is real is kept simultaneously in the sense that the past, present, and future are the same, and at the same time things are also kept with an individuation that can even break that. You know, multidimensionality can be reached in different states, but it must come through an acknowledgement and a confrontation of your whole. In other words, that moment when you have nothing to say because you have everything to see, you have just found a clarity that becomes the proper tilt on the pilot's hand. So what that means is your ideology is not trying to destroy itself, not trying to cure itself, heal itself. It is aware of its presence in the sense that it sees, no, we're not only here for survival. We're not just here for survival. That is just such the animal. We are here to be expressed as the clearest intention of the awareness that we have in each moment of our being. If we were to take the concept of living as the meaning of life, you would see that you've always been living. So the concept or the way the question is framed is not done through the authenticity that has acknowledged the self within all things. So when you find Mr. Within, you have found that moment where there is no communication other than absolute being. I have learned that whatever hierarchy we consider, if we choose to interpret the relationships within the hierarchy as ones that have image and are, in a sense, cruel or hateful and imprisoning, you would see that your interpretation of measurement is not one that is giving you permission to see more than what you're seeing. How the ruler is in your hand suggests how the ruler of reality gives its command. And what I mean by that is that your consideration is based on something, and when that thing becomes transparent, you are all that you are. It's that moment the pilot has navigated the plane of existence in a sense that it was always navigated. Advanced communicators are simply aware that communication is not just simultaneously present, but it's through its omnipresence, everywhere is in everywhere. Everywhere you see is within everywhere. So movement is an illusion when all information was simultaneously present, in the sense that we saw in, for example, the notions of quantum entanglement, for example. We must see that it is poetry to see unification of being. It is also poetry to see that there are some people who go to one side of the spectrum and they're trying to cultivate an individual life where it's like the guy is known by society, he has good kids, and he's just living a happy life based on how happiness has been communicated culturally. And there are some people who just, in a sense, do the opposite actually. They go within themselves, they go into the Himalayas, and it's as if the guy had a family. He left his family because he told his wife, I have to go be in my higher states of existence. Can you imagine telling that to your wife? Sorry honey, I gotta leave you and the kids because I'm going to my path to finding my God state, you know? And that's the beauty in Indian culture, which I really adore, you know? Because there are people like that. Mystics and yogis are some of the most, they are truly the wonders of the world in regards to human beings. All human beings are wondrous, but it's based on our interest of which aspect of reality we want to cultivate in relationship. So to get back to the potentials of presence you can have, some people go to the side of the spectrum where they become complete experience. They in other words, they don't need, their work in this life does not become only physically focused. So what that means is their physical body is actually could remain under a tree, but their presence is aware of all that it is. So it's like when you're aware of your greater experience, your individual experience is not gone. It's not that they've gone to another dimension. It's just that through the awareness of the omnipresent intelligence that is now, we see that what occurs is an intelligence beyond comparison. When there's an intelligence beyond comparison, why are we using rulers and why are we worried about rulers? We need to be aware of self. We need to see that, okay, in a world where the society seems to be as much confused as the individual is as first, you see that enlightenment or nirvana is the ability of a human being to be aware of all things as all. Do not limit yourself. Do not think that you're such an individual experience that you'll never be more than what you are. You're a human being. A healthy mind always sees possibility. Impossibility suggests that it's I'm possibility, so that when you see that the possibility is you are there. Trust me, as long as you're trying to be, for example, abundant, you will never have that abundance unless you know you're abundant. All those people who, there was a time in my life where I really didn't know anything. And so I stumbled upon this quote where they were like, fake it till you make it, you know? And I was like, fake what? And make it where? Right? But I realized that the reason that could have worked, sometimes fake it till make it, is because once the guy faked it like for a year, he saw, why the hell am I not just doing it? And he did it. So if you say that instead of going to fake something, you see that the whole point of you living is to be a new authentic experience among all that is experiencing, you don't become a being that is wanting something from your co-creations in regards to conversations with others. So when you go talk to someone, you're not someone who wants something, but you're just someone who's so excited in creating whatever communication there is. I've had some of the most greatest spontaneous, and wisest talks with strangers by the simple communication that I knew that needed to be communicated to. You will see, it's not about, confidence is not about how your posture looks or what your composure is. It's how you are composed in regards to what is real for you. So if the audience is real for you, if that girl you like is very real for you, if that job or opportunity you seek is very real for you, you will see It's like you know it. It's as real as eating food, you know? There have been many times in my life where I've been nervous and I've doubted and I've just seen that I haven't been able. But suddenly I've seen that, wait a minute, I'm able to think that I'm incapable, right? I'm able to know that I don't know some things or I can't do it. What's making me not know it, you know? It's as if like I have one range of ability to know. Why is that not present within all dynamics? And so I got rid of my own chaotic way of thinking and saying that everything is possible. Impossibility is just man's design in the sense that he creates what he creates. So what that means is when I say, for example, the word happiness, I'm not saying the word sad, but you can see that it's implied because you're understanding happiness based on sad, based on the spectrum. So in essence, humanity must begin getting playful with itself, because if it does not, the mind of man will not be able to communicate properly. So what that means is your body is under pressure, okay? Your body is under pressure based on whatever is in your food or how you eat or whatever. Or maybe you might think you're healthy, but let's say that's one area, the physical health. Another area is how you're aware of things in regards to ideas. So what that means is when I'm communicating right now, ideas are coming into your awareness. And these ideas have imagery, and at the same time, they can trigger things where you actually take my words and go into greater worlds. It doesn't matter who communicates, the communication is an image and you are the receiver. And as the receiver, you can listen to my talk and walk with me in the worlds that I open, or at the same time, you can choose to take one aspect. You can even listen to my talk without rationally. You can just hear it as if you're appreciating sound. But it's all about the sensitivity that existence has to itself. And this sensitivity must come with a direct awareness of its ideas. So what that means is you might be, sitting on a bench and you might not be skydiving, but you're thinking about skydiving. So what that means is you're thinking about the imagery of skydiving is in your mind, okay? And let's say it's an imagery you've seen on TV, so it doesn't matter, So you see the imagery of skydiving in your mind. You see that the image is not real because you are like, okay, I'm sitting on a bench, I'm not there. But you are having a direct experience of the image. Do you get it? Think of yourself for a second, not as the object, but as the observer of the object. And the observer of the object is always having a direct experience. So all those people who thought their illusion was keeping them away from direct experience were directly experiencing their illusion. So direct experience is something that's happening now. So all these beings who tell you, come to the here and now, are simply saying that when you stop, you will see all the things that have begun. And so the seer who was able to, in a sense, communicate something that had a probability to become accurate in the future was only because it was never from a linear knowing. It was a communication that the moment wanted. When the moment wants, or you see how the moment receives, your compassion extends to your ideas. It's like, oh my God, I thought I only had to be compassionate to physical beings, to things that I considered had life in them, But no, I have to be compassionate to all that is my moment of existence. And when you're compassionate to all that is within your moment of existence, it means that you're identifying with the silence and stillness of the pond rather than all the ripples that are being created by all these new ideas and agitations that are thrown to you as problems in life. You will see that the answer is that you were never in the problem. Do you know? I want to share a story with you guys. And this story is a very funny one. It actually can go on the borders of being a joke too. The story begins with this guy standing on the top floor. So what that means is he's gone to the rooftop of some building, and he's standing there and he's having a cigarette. He's having a late night smoke. And as he's looking, in the night, and it's very deep, he's having deep thoughts, and he's smoking his cigarette, or smoking whatever he's smoking. And this person begins to see that there is a noise coming from downstairs. He goes and he sees from downstairs there's this guy calling, and this guy just begins to shout, and he just shouts so directly that this guy, it's as if his whole ear in the silence of the night begins to tune in on what this guy's saying. And the guy downstairs begins to shout at the guy that's upstairs, so it's as if like the guy's shouting at him, and he's like, Bob, your wife and kids are dead, you know? And this man just breaks, and it's as if he's on the edge, and he just drops. He's like, my life's over. And he falls down, and he's just falling from these buildings, you know. And he gets to, let's say it's 9 floors, he gets to the, 7th floor, and he's like, wait a minute. I never got married. He's coming down. Suddenly, 5th floor. Wait a minute. I never had kids, you know. He's about to hit the ground. Wait a minute, I'm not Bob. And this guy gets into the ground, and it's as if a simple mistake was just unnecessary. So my friends, pretty much that joke is to show that we sometimes might accept realities that are not us. We might sometimes think that we're this kind of person based on how someone communicates to us. We might sometimes think that we're this kind of person based on how we sometimes communicate to ourselves. But it is very important to see that we are always the ability to be a new possibility. You're always the ability to be a new possibility. You're always an ability to have a new awareness of all that you know. Don't think you lose anything. Don't try to collect knowledge, but try to make yourself as a being that is experientially self-aware. What that means is if something happens, you're situationally aware. It's as if you're so aware to life forms that even the movement of the birds is communicating the changes that will occur later on in the day. You know, so it's very important to see that you are your own clarity, and you need to take the existential responsibility in finding Mr. Within. Because sometimes if you don't, life will take you. There's this very profound American Swami who, in the Krishna consciousness movement, which, to be honest, I forget his name now, but he's a very great man in the sense that life really gave him a wake-up call. Like, you see, the wake-up call life gave this being was fabulous, you know. And so he was this American guy born in Chicago, and in his teens he just left and went to India and began going and learning from the yogis, and his life was of just such a beautiful story. It's actually a story which really inspired me, because it told me, it confirmed many things for me. Stories most of the time do not give me truth, but they confirm my explorations in life. And when I say explorations, is that I'm not telling you I know anything, certainly, but in the moments that I communicate, my communication is known. I am aware of the moment of my being in the sense that there is infinite potential. Energy begins to be cultivated when there is a vehicle that can receive it. And so what I mean by that is that right now, even though this is for another talk, energy pours into you when your intention is really aware of itself. So what that means is, think of it this way. Your phone rings, in an instant you jump up together. It's as if like, gosh, you're better than, you have reflexes better than Spider-Man in picking up your phone when you're waiting for a phone call. But at the same time, that same intention becomes one where we think we have to do something in a certain way. Religious ideology is both beautiful and at the same time also a bit stagnant in regards to how it communicates reality. So what I mean by that is that you must realize that you must respect things properly in their own place. You must respect the fact that, for example, when you come and tell me something in a certain tonality, I don't interpret it as if he was so mad. For example, you very calmly said, hey man, what's up, you know? And I interpret that as mad. So it's very important that we do not try to interpret something, but rather allow us to see what is clearly communicating to us. When you see what religion is communicating to you, it's just communicating imagery which you are putting in for yourself because of your experience. So it's your relationship with your imagery that is the significance of the profundity, that is the awareness that God is within all things. But you must also realize that there's some people who also see it and bring in their own interpretation. It's like, why does it even matter that you, as your own point of awareness, to go and try to force this person to think that the world looks like just how you see it? It's very elusive when we want things to change in the life of others. What that means is that you must give everybody their existential space. You must give them the space to exist however they want. This is what I did not understand. Because I was raised in a family where our hygiene, where it's as if I did not like insects or anything that could be like nature. Not nature, but just I did not like to get my hands dirty. But then I realized that's when you feel the soul. That's when you find the roots. That's when the greatest treasures are revealed, where you, not as an individual, but as a moment of being, allow yourself the greatest revelation of self with another. You begin seeing, you understand others because you understand yourself. You begin others understand you because they understand yourself. We are okay. We are advanced technology. We are able beings. But we must allow ourselves to see our ability clearly. And that clarity is not a clarity that is diluted in, that is covered and masked by ideology, imagery, and temporal abstractions. You have, this is your platform of knowing, and it's a stable platform. This physical life as a human being is a great place to study the cosmos. Trust me, you've just come into a great room in the cosmos to study reality. And study it well and understand how you are part of it and it is part of you. And also understand that don't think this is all going to be a joy, you know? Because your sense of joy right now is based on a sense of conditioning. Your luxury and satisfaction is based on how you've chosen to keep yourself in a certain mold. But as the mold breaks, you will see that we are looking for the intelligence that inspired the clay master. As it is profoundly said in many holy books, that it's as if man was made from clay and then given life. So it must be very important, the intelligence of the clay master, and to realize that there's one external aspects of this, which for now people are calling God and unified field, you know, or whatever other terms people have, and that's the external relationship. And there's also the internal relationship, in the sense that regardless, it's as if you are no longer in front of an audience, you are in front of all existence alone. You have walked into lands that only you can see, and there's no one else. And in that solitude, that is where religion also has its profoundest contributions. When man observes the collective, he knows of his individuality. Ask and you shall receive. Ask through a collective integrative view, and your individuality has already been aligned by where you are perceiving you are. Experiences beyond space and time do not always mean that they're completely irrelevant to space and time. You will relate experiences outside of space and time in space and time. You will try to interpret what you dreamed in your dream state. But consciousness needs to be aware that the subtlety and the ability for it to become aware of its subtle realms is made clear through its presence, which has infinite existential allowance, and as it is everything, it is no thing, it is nothing. The intelligence that is within everything is in no thing. Do you get it? So it's nothing. So it's very important to see that there is not an apocalypse. The hierarchies do not need to say that you will be condemned in a certain way. All you need to understand that this plane of existence originated out of nothing, and it must gracefully dissolve into nothing. So do not, it's the problem with death being so tragic is because people forget to dissolve their ideologies, their egos before death comes. They forget that death should be an existential passage. So when death is coming near, when you're on your deathbed, do not try to think what you should have done. Forget all thought. Realize you're walking into new doors, and this is now time for you to be aware of life and its form. You are the formless observance of it. And the observer is always beyond the object of observance. Whatever age you are, whatever form you are the intelligence of the observer, not the object of observance. And they are simultaneously present and also segmented. But that is based on your existential sensitivity and how self-awareness has become meaningful emptiness. Because what flows already flows. And man never had to do anything when he was never man. Much blessings and namaste.